There are many good church members who have been divorced. I speak first to them. We know that many of you are innocent victims, members whose former spouses persistently betrayed sacred covenants or abandoned or refused to perform marriage responsibilities for an extended period. Members who have experienced such abuse have firsthand knowledge of circumstances worse than divorce. When a marriage is dead and beyond hope of resuscitation, it is needful to have a means to end it.
Family Proclamation Project Part 4. Most people do not enter into a relationship with the belief they are going to get divorced. Most people want a stable, safe, and loving relationship. However, when this does not occur, divorce is often considered. People in the LDS religion also experience divorce. 25 to 30% of people regularly attending church also get divorced. However, in the United States of America, 40% to 50% of first marriages end in divorce, and second marriages have a 60% divorce rate. Feeling of loneliness often accompany children who have a family that is separated. They are less likely to graduate high school, go to college, and graduate from college if they start. These children are likely to become sexually active younger, abandon religious beliefs, and they are likely to experience divorce when they marry in the future. Celestial law, marriage is considered permanent. However, God also knows that people in marriage won't live up to the celestial law, so divorce is necessary in a fallen world. Elder Oaks taught when a marriage is dead and beyond hope of resuscitation, it is needful to have a means to end it. President Faust also provided this counsel. A prolonged and apparently irredeemable relationship which is destructive of a person's dignity as a human being. Also recommended that people make sure divorce is the right thing for them. He urges people not to act too hastily in the decision-making process. He recommends that couples work through the issues or attempt to rectify the relationship, especially if children are involved in the process. If the problem remains and cannot be rectified, then divorce becomes a viable option. President Faust also recognizes that leaving quickly can be necessary for the spouses and children whose lives are in immediate danger by staying in the home. Then prayerful consideration should be taken if change is even possible for the abuser. Faust encourages couples, both spouses, to do everything in their power to repair the relationship. If a couple is struggling with pornography, he advises to remove computers and internet in the house, support and help the spouse through therapy, and stay committed. That is, until it is determined that the relationship cannot be redeemed and the behavior does not stop. People are not obligated to stay with a spouse if the issues are not being worked on or resolved. This is when the people in the relationship have a deteriorating sense of worth. This is when abuse or infidelity is causing the person to doubt their value and their eternal perspective. It is important to mention that verbal and emotional abuse often can create the same issues and be as severe as physical abuse. God does not expect spouses or partners to put up with abuse. Referring back to chapter 7, it is better for the children and spouses to leave to maintain a sense of normalcy and prevent psychological damage. Now we'll be going over the power and control wheel and the equality wheel. So corrosion and threats is on the power and control wheel, and it's making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her, threatening to leave her, commit suicide, or report her to welfare, making her drop charges, making her do illegal things. Intimidation, making her afraid by using looks, actions, and gestures, smashing things, destroying property, abusing pets, and displaying weapons. Emotional abuse, putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, and making her feel guilty. Isolation, controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, what she reads and where she goes, limiting her outside involvement, using jealousy to justify actions. Minimizing, denying, and blaming, making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, saying she caused it. This is often referred to as gaslighting. Using children, making her feel guilty about the children, using the children to relay messages, using visitation to harass her, threatening to take the children away. Economic abuse, preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking her money, not letting her know about or have access to family income. Male privilege, treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men's and women's roles. And then on the equality wheel, we have negotiation and fairness, which is seeking mutually satisfying resolution to conflict, accepting change, being willing to compromise. Non-threatening behavior, talking and acting so that she feels safe and comfortable expressing herself and doing things. Respect, listening to her non-judgmentally, being emotionally affirming and understanding, valuing opinions. Trust and support, supporting her goals in life, respecting her right to her own feelings, friends, activities, and opinions. Honesty and accountability, accepting responsibility for self, acknowledging past use of violence, admitting being wrong, communicating openly and truthfully. Responsible parenting, sharing parental responsibilities, being a positive, nonviolent role model for the children. Shared responsibility, mutually agreeing on a fair distribution of work, making family decisions together. Economic partnership, making money decisions together, making sure both partners benefit from financial arrangements. The best way to avoid being married to an abuser is to recognize what warning signs exist during dating. This list helps people recognize how a partner can slowly erode physical boundaries and create a feeling and sense of reliance on the abuser. Gaslighting is also a common way to prevent the abused from holding the abuser accountable through denying and minimizing. This is one of the most common forms of abuse. This is when an abuser gives gifts, physical attention, compliments, grand gestures, and rapidly moves into a relationship with the victim or pushes the victim to be in a relationship with them. Abusers usually pick people who are kind, open-hearted, and trusting. Abusers will often pick people who are looking for validation or love. They enjoy building up a person's self-esteem before tearing it down with insults when the victim has successfully been swooned. All people are able to change for the better. Abusers usually do not because they excuse, deny, and expect rewards for becoming better. Being an abuser is a pattern of learned behaviors of entitlement and privilege, which can be extremely difficult to truly change. Because of this, there's a very low percentage of abusers who truly do change their ways. Ministry of Reconciliation, Elder Holland. Forgive and ye shall be forgiven. Christ taught in New Testament times. And in our day, I, the Lord, will forgive whom I will forgive. But of you it is required to forgive all men. It is, however, important for some of you living in real anguish to note what he did not say. He did not say you are not allowed to feel true pain or real sorrow from the shattering experiences you have had at the hand of another. Nor did he say, in order to forgive fully, you have to re-enter a toxic relationship or return to an abusive, destructive circumstance. But notwithstanding, even the most terrible offenses that might come to us, we can rise above our pain only when we put our feet onto the path of true healing. That path is the forgiving one walked by Jesus of Nazareth, who called to each of us, "Come, follow me." Divorce is a necessary part of society, just as important as marriage is. It deconstructs decimating and dangerous relationships that causes destruction of human dignity. Divorce should be taken seriously and should happen once the relationship can't be rectified. The best way to avoid divorce is to be aware and educated on red flags that indicate the true character of an individual.
But as I went out and I would speak and advocate for women and for children and for survivors, I got a lot of questions like, how have you dealt with anger? Or have you dealt with anger? Have you forgiven your captors? Where do you find hope? Like, what's helped you move forward? And I kept getting these same questions over and over and over again. And I thought, well, if I'm getting so many questions and people aren't asking me like the nitty-gritty details, it's probably because they're looking for those same answers in their own life. And so I thought, maybe this is a good opportunity for me to try to answer them. And goodness, I don't have all the answers. I don't. So I went out and I found people that inspire me, people that I look up to, people who are making a difference. And I asked them to share their stories, and I asked them the same questions. And that's kind of the premise for this new book.
I'm curious, dealing with all of those issues, and you address them in the book, but how did you deal with the anger, and have you forgiven?
Yes, to both. For me, when I look at forgiveness, I don't see it as, I feel like maybe the idea that I was raised with, that someone hurts you, they ask for forgiveness, and then you magnanimously say it's okay and move on and become best friends. I don't think that that's forgiveness. I feel like forgiveness really is kind of the ultimate expression of self-love, of valuing yourself. Like, I realize my captors will never care if I forgive them. It will not affect them a single second for the rest of their lives, knowing that I've forgiven them or not, but it will affect me, and it will negatively impact my own life because I'll be holding on to anger or grief or pain, and that will stop me from living my life the best that I can do. And honestly, I guess I just love myself too much. I think you're right, and I think I'm not saying at all that you shouldn't be angry or you shouldn't be sad or you shouldn't feel grief. I think that it is a natural part of healing. I mean, it is natural to feel anger when someone hurts you, to feel pain, to feel sadness. But I think it's important just to realize that there is a place and there's a time for that, and take that time to grieve your losses, and then to have your end goal be moving forward to find your happiness.